All right, so Arkansas had a fantastic 2021. What do they do for an encore here in 2022? A lot of people say they're the second best team in the SEC West, maybe the third. A&M says, yeah, I hope it's not second, although the Aggies are trying to get first. Let's talk about it with a insider who has covered the team as a TV personality and also on the sidelines for the SEC Network and, of course, on ESPN. Tera Talmadge joining us here on the show. Tera, how are you?
I'm doing good. It is finally game week, so I think we're all pretty excited to get this season underway.
So lots of preseason hype for Arkansas. Help me understand it. Is it because the 9 wins, I don't want to say came out of nowhere, but they weren't expected last year, and now people kind of expect that kind of season every year?
Yeah, I think it definitely is fair to say that it kind of came out of nowhere. I don't think that fans were expecting them to do as well as they did. It was a nice surprise, but now the bar has been raised. I think there's new standards for the program. So going into this new season, they're hoping for 10 wins. I don't know if 10 wins is going to happen, but I definitely think it's possible.
Talking to Tera Talmadge here on Up to the Second College Football. So offensively, look, KJ Jefferson's a dynamic quarterback, no doubt about that. But replacing Treylon Burks is going to be very difficult. How does Arkansas replace such a stud at that position who's now in the NFL?
You need a lot of guys to replace what Treylon Burks did for the University of Arkansas. Thankfully, though, they've got a couple that I think are going to be big time for the Razorbacks this year. You've got Jaden Hazelwood, who came in from OU, and everyone's really excited about him and getting to see him finally in action. So I think he is going to be a big time playmaker. They've also got Warren Thompson in there as well. They've got guys that can fill the void. It's going to be interesting to see, though, who really steps up.
Terry, Arkansas had a tough and a great game. I shouldn't say tough, but I guess it was a tough opponent to start the season off with Texas last year, and they mopped the floor with them. Is Cincinnati kind of in that same kind of respect that if Arkansas can take care of business against a very good Cincinnati team, they kind of can move on because the top part of the schedule is kind of difficult?
It is pretty difficult. I know that they're obviously looking to have another successful start to the season. But you also don't want like your best game of the year to come in your first game. Like you want to be progressively getting better throughout the year. I think we're going to see a lot of adjustments after this game, and it's going to be interesting to see how Luke Fickell and Cincinnati play this one too. Like they're being very under wraps about who their starting quarterback is, who some of like their depth chart is a little leaves a little bit to be desired for this Arkansas staff and what to plan for. So it's going to be fun. I do think that having them come into Arkansas after another great year, it's going to be good for the Razorbacks to have a packed house at 2:30. They've got SEC Nation there as well. There's a lot of hype surrounding this one.
So you mentioned they want to play their best football at the end of the year, but they also have a tough start to their season. So last year, what was their best game? Was it the Texas game? Was it the A&M game? Was it potentially the overtime loss to Ole Miss? Where was their best game, or which one was it?
You know, I think if you're a fan, everyone loved that Texas game. It was just such a great atmosphere, and it was a fun thing to be a part of. But if you're a team, I think you'd go with something else. That Ole Miss game was a great game. I think they played it extremely well. And at the end of it, Sam Pittman just went for it. And you can't fault him for doing it either. So I think that would probably be one of my favorite games and one of the top performances from them this year or past year.
So what happened with some of the transfers recently, and how much did people just love the way Sam Pittman responded to it?
You know, Sam Pittman has had to deal with that question several times now in terms of guys who have left the program. This was interesting because the two guys chose to leave, you know, pretty late in the year. So now they have to pretty much hold on to those scholarships. And it's not ideal for Sam Pittman and the program. But the way that he handles it is just by saying, like, if you're not wanting to be a part of this program, then yeah, enter the portal. That's what it's for. He's not trashing them. It just sometimes things just don't work out.
Talking to Tera Talmadge here. So is Cincinnati a bigger test because they went to the college football playoffs last year, but they're a completely different team this year? Or South Carolina, a team that people are like, well, they've got Spencer Rattler, but they're still South Carolina. Which is a tougher matchup?
I actually would go with South Carolina. I think that's going to be, everyone's so hyped up about Spencer Rattler. I think he's got a lot to prove, obviously, this year, even early on. everyone is excited about Cincinnati, but like you mentioned, they're not the same team that they were. They're missing a lot of guys. Their O-line looks good, but there's still just going to be a lot of changes for that team. And I know that it's going to be kind of a learning curve for them in that first game as well.
That is Tera Talmadge here on Up to the Second College Football. Tera, thank you so much. We'll be talking, I know, in a couple of weeks when A&M and Arkansas face off, and maybe even next week with the South Carolina game.
That sounds good. Looking forward to it.